watch a film, you either love it or you hate it, and there's everything in between. If you watch a film and you quite like it, and then the rest of the fans and critics don't.
In addition to whenever a film is scarcely talked about when you think it should be.
That's when you find something is underrated. Today I'm going to be discussing what I feel are some of my most underrated films, and why I think that. So, let's just get into it.
As much as I hate having to use that old 2018 clip, it's kind of true, and there's not really else I can say that's, new about it. I thought, be economical here. Yeah, this is a sequel to the video I did in 2018 about underrated films, where Clack of the Geek from 2018 had no clue about movies, really. Well, he had a little bit of clue, but like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is really not anything special. Anyway, yeah, I'm just going to be talking about 3 underrated movies that I, like, but obviously now I'm older. It's been like 3.5, nearly 4 years since that old video. I've gotten better taste in films. I've gotten a more broader taste in films. I can distinguish pure cinema from amusement park films, thanks to Mr. Martin Scorsese.
Thank you!
So yeah, let's chat about them.
You want me to hold the chicken, huh?
I want you to hold it between your knees.
Number 1, 5 Easy Pieces. So the first film we're discussing is a film from 1970 called 5 Easy Pieces, and it stars Jack Nicholson in quite an early performance in his career. It's very much, before, big films like Cuckoo's Nest or The Shining, when he was a big, household name. It's much earlier in his career. And this film very much falls under the category of no one talks about it, because I hadn't heard of this film until a couple of weeks ago, until I was watching a video, it was like a list video about films with like social messages, and this was on that video, and I was like, okay, I'll have a look for it, and I checked it out, and I think it should be talked about more because it is a really great film. It's a very grounded film. It's much more character driven, centered around the character that Jack Nicholson plays, Bobby, who is, he's just really uncontent with life. He comes from a upper class background, an upper class family that he kind of just abandoned. He was he was a budding pianist, but he gave up that dream. He has a wife who he doesn't really love that much, and he's just uncontent with anything in his life. But then his father has become very ill, so he has met up with the rest of his family at their old family home, to see him one last time, and he's returning to a life that he'd left behind. As I said, this film is very character driven, so it really does rely on Jack Nicholson's performance, because it's about his character. It's a character study of him, and thankfully his performance is spectacular. It's much more grounded and more subdued, and you've got kind of hints of his over the top, larger than life, traits that we know him of, but he's very grounded, very believable, very raw, very right, and it's a fantastic, believable, emotional performance, and he really does carry the film, which is the intention. There's so many scenes where, he can really convey some really raw emotion, especially when he's talking to his father at the end, and he's in the wheelchair, and, he's talking to his father about his life, and he, he's starting to cry and, flub his lines, kind of, it doesn't feel like an actor reading from a script. It just feels like a genuine person getting upset, getting emotional, trembling, and it's just a fantastic performance, and it really just carries the film so well. And there's some brilliant scenes which, portray this message of making the most of what you have in life, because that's kind of like the main message of the film. So there's the scene, as I showed in the clip earlier, in the restaurant, where basically Jack's character, he's ordering from the menu, he wants a specific thing, but he wants things taken off, things added on, like serve like this, whatnot. And it's like, no, we don't do custom orders and whatnot. And he gets in, there's like a real scene. He makes a big scene. He starts trashing the table. It's quite an amusing scene visually, but it perfectly illustrates, imagine the menu is life. Make the most of what you have on that menu. Or what about the scene at the house where he starts playing the piano, and then he pans across the room in an unbroken shot of all these family portraits and whatnot, showing this upper class background that he left behind. This is the life that he'd left behind. This is a great, brilliant scene. Or what about the ending, which is a very odd ending. I'm not going to spoil it because I want you to watch the film, but when you watch the ending, on the surface, it's a really odd, abrupt way to end it, and you don't necessarily feel satisfied. Exactly like how Jack Nicholson's character felt. And the more, that dawned on me, the more that it was a reflection of his character. That was just like, that's genius. That's a brilliant way to end it. I always tend to gravitate towards films with the kind of message of, make the most of life, because I think it's just a universal message that everybody should be on board with. It's just a brilliant, timely message, forever, really. And, films like Ferris Bueller's Day Off have a more optimistic approach. Like, that film is very much, if you do make the most of life, you'll be very happy. Look how happy you'll be. But this film is more pessimistic. It's like, if you don't make the most of life, you're going to end up very miserable. So, make the most of what you've got in life, and, don't be like Jack's character, because it's just a brilliantly done film, and I highly recommend it. And please, spread the word of this film, because it is genuinely great, and, yeah.
You have a nasty habit of surviving. Well, you know what they say about the fittest?
Number 2, Octopussy. We've got a Bond film, and this one, it falls into the camp of it's unfairly hated, in my opinion. This film, on review sites, it gets very low scores. On Bond list rankings, it comes fairly near the bottom, if not at the bottom. And, with the outrageous title of Octopussy, it's often, prone to mockery. It's seen as it's too corny and cheesy and campy, and you can't take it seriously. And Bond does a Tarzan yell, which is literally a 5-second scene. And yet, I love this one, and I don't get the hate at all. I mean, the film gets criticised for, Bond does a Tarzan yell, which is a 5-second gag, or Bond disguises as a clown and it's set at a circus. And whilst, you don't really need these things, and I don't think they're particularly great gags, why should these quite minute details in the grand scheme of things distract from a fantastic plot? I mean, this film's plot, you've got Octopussy and her diamond smuggling operation, which is under the guise of a circus that she runs, and she's kind of in league with the villains with this diamond smuggling operation, but behind her back, the villains are planting a nuclear bomb into this thing, and, it's going to go off at where the circus is performing, which happens to be a US air base, so it will look like an accident, it's gone off by accident at this Air Force base, so other countries will disarm their nuclear weapons, allowing the Soviets to take over. That is a fantastic Cold War plot, and probably the best implementation, or one of the best implementations, of the whole Cold War angle in the classic Bond films, in my opinion. Another place where the film gets criticised is Roger Moore's age is apparently an issue. I personally don't see that. He was about in his mid-50s here, and I've never thought the Bond actor is too old to play James Bond, so long as the film accommodates for that and makes you still believe in the character. A View to a Kill doesn't do a very good job of that. The stunt doubles are painfully obvious, and his chemistry with Tanya Roberts in that film as Stacey Sutton is just not there. But here it works. The action scenes with the stunt doubles, it's blended in well, so I still believe that Bond is hanging off a train, even if I know that Roger Moore is not hanging off of a train. And as well as that, you've got Maud Adams as the titular character of Octopussy, as his main female co-star. And she was a bit older. She was near to 40 years old. So it was a similar age gap, I think, to Daniel Craig and Léa Seydoux in the recent films. But it's still, their chemistry is electric, and I buy their romance. And I honestly could believe that they would go off at, the end of the film, they could go off and have a relationship together. It's that strong. And Octopussy herself as a character is great. Maud Adams gives a great performance, she exudes a lot of confidence, and she's got a great character, a great backstory, and she just has this world-weary kind of quality that I just think she's brilliant. She's one of my favourite Bond girls for me. The antagonists of this film are all varied in their own unique way, but they're all brilliantly memorable, and I love all three of them. I think they're all great. The action scenes are fantastically done. The music by John Barry is great. I love the location work in India. It looks beautiful. There's some really great kind of tense moments like this. Roger Moore gives a brilliant performance, showing the intensity and the believability of it. It's brilliant. It's brilliantly done, and it's still, it's incredibly tense, and you believe the situation and the stakes. But some great tense moments throughout the film. It's like a thriller almost. there's also some really classy, kind of Ian Fleming-esque inspired moments, like the auction of the egg at the beginning of the film. It's, very good. But overall, it's just a damn good time. They were kind of going for a more Fleming, darker edge, but still having that Roger Moore era, fun, life, colour, vibrancy, bit of campiness, it's got some of the gags and whatnot, It's almost like For Your Eyes Only, but on steroids, and I prefer this. This is how you do it. You still believe in the stakes, but above all, it's a bloody good time, and it's probably, for me, one of the most entertaining Bond films there are, so I don't get the hate for this one at all.
You do it, Arthur.
Number 3, Arthur Christmas. And to cap off this video, we've got a more modern film from 2011, so it's fairly recent, and it's from Aardman Animation, the Walston Gromit folks, in collaboration with Sony Pictures Animation. So it's when they were doing some collaborations with them, and it's also at the time when Aardman were trying out more computer animation as opposed to their traditional stop-motion claymation stuff, and I think here it works. In Flushed Away, which was also CGI computer animation, they just used their generic, well not generic, but their specific character designs, and I don't think it translates well to CGI, so they did something different here. It's unique, it's newly designed from scratch. It's still got that Aardman charming quality to it, but yeah, the animation, especially on the characters, much better here, really well done. And the animation in general is fantastic. It's so creative, inventive with all the technology and the gadgets of the elves and whatnot, and all the animation. It's brilliant, and the set pieces, it's so well done. But that is not why this film is so good. It's the story and the Christmas magic which make this film. So the premise of the film is you have different generations of Santa. You've got Grand Santa, you've got Santa Claus, and you've got Steve, voiced by Hugh Laurie, who is kind of taking over the mantle of Santa. That's kind of the premise of it. And then Steve's brother Arthur, the top character, voiced by James McAvoy, is in the mail department. He's getting all the letters from Santa and sending them back and whatnot. But he's the most passionate about Christmas, and that kind of shines through when one child doesn't receive a present, even though all other children do. This one child doesn't, and Arthur is determined to make sure that this child gets the present in time for Christmas. First of all, you've got all this sci-fi technology kind of thing with all the elves and how they deliver presents, and how they get about with the kind of the spaceship, which they fly around the world and it goes invisible and all that kind of stuff. It's really inventive, really creative, but it also, with this kind of theme of technology being used to deliver presents now in the modern day, it begs the question of which is better? Are the old traditional ways of that were used by Grand Santa with the traditional sleigh and reindeer? Is that the better way to do things, or is it to use the technology with Hugh Laurie's Steve character? Is that the way to go forward, or should you combine the two? It doesn't pick a side. No character, despite having flaws, no character is ever vilified. No character is ever made out bad or anything. It always, you can make your own mind up, and it treats the audience with that intelligence of, you decide what do you think, and it's brilliant. Yeah, the characters as well are all fantastic. All the different generations of Santa, as well as Arthur, they're all great characters. They're not perfect characters. They've got flaws. Even though Arthur is the main character and he's the one most passionate about Christmas and that Christmas spirit and that magic, he's still quite clumsy at the end of the day. So he's not a perfect character. But nobody's ever made out to be a villain, and it's there isn't an antagonist. It's just a simple film about this story, and it's brilliant. The big adventure, that they go on with trying to deliver the present in time, it's just a real fun romp. It's an absolute delight to watch. But the main thing that really got me and really struck a chord with me personally was just that sense of Christmas magic that I don't think I've really felt with any other Christmas film other than this, really. I mean, yeah, because it really shows how important Christmas can be, especially to a child. And, you view the film, therefore, with a childlike wonder, and it ignited, for me at least, a childlike sense of wonder that I'd not felt in a long time. But yeah, this film very much falls under the category of not enough people have seen this one, because it's just... It seems like outside of the UK, not many people have heard of this film, but everybody I think I've heard talk about this has never said a bad word against this film. Everybody, I think, who's seen it has loved it. And if you watch it, you'll love it too. So please, this holiday season, give it a shot, because it is genuinely a modern classic. And I imagine in 10, 20, 30 years' time, this will be looked back on like Home Alone, like Elf, like Die Hard, because that is a Christmas film. This will be looked back on as a Christmas film for the ages that will get wheeled out year after year to new generations of kids who can discover the magic of this film yet again. So please do give it a watch. I wish I'd watched it when I was younger. Also, this is the only kids' film where they reference the Cuban Missile Crisis. So yeah, that's something. So that's the list. Hope you enjoyed this video. What are some of your underrated films? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on these films? If you've seen them, if you like them, if you don't like them, let me know all that in the comments below. And if you've never seen these films, I would highly recommend you give them a watch. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Click the bell so you don't miss a thing. And this is Clack of the Geek signing out. Goodbye, everyone.